All right, today we are getting into the top-down weekly analysis. I have right here all of the majors on the screen. This is the dollar, okay, the yen, Swiss franc, Canadian dollar, euro, pound, Aussie, and the New Zealand dollar, okay? And what I'm gonna do is I kind of want to look at everything together. So we're all on the weekly now on all these charts. The dollar has been extremely bullish, and almost everything against it has just been extremely bearish. The dollar is extremely bullish. Everything is pretty much going to be weak against it. What we're doing in forex is we're trying to figure out which currency has a probability of being weak this week and which currency has a probability of being strong this week, and then which one has a probability of maybe not doing shit, because we kind of don't really want to trade that one, right? By looking at just the straight up weekly time frames, it's obvious that the momentum in the dollar is to the upside. It did completely break these highs, closed above it with a nice volume candle, but we break the highs, right? The volume is higher than the last 2 weeks, but we're starting to see a little bit of divergence here. We are making higher highs. I'm not saying anything about reversal. I'm saying the volume, the demand is starting to dry up just a little bit. You have to compare it to the previous candle, and comparing it to the previous candle, it's more volume. So that's why I'm saying we're not reversing yet. It's not ready yet, but breaking out of this area, we haven't broke out of the volume, right? In fact, this candle here that printed the most volume was more or less of a doji. That's kind of a rejection. That's kind of the first signal that, hey, something's up. Why is the candle that's producing no price action giving us the most volume? And now we're starting to break above, okay, with lighter volume than that. Like I said, it's not definitely, I'm not bearish on the dollar yet at all. Of course, these levels just got smacked. So more than anything, I'm probably expecting the price to just come back down into here and to go up. So what I'm seeing on the daily, and what we've been talking about pretty much, is this possibility of somewhat of this rising wedge, and however you want to draw it, that's a little subjective as well. If you were drawing it like this, it already broke out of that. If you were drawing it like this, it hasn't came up to the top of it yet. But regardless, you see the market is starting to move in a wave where the waves are slowing down. Okay, you see the big wave, correction, smaller wave, smaller correction, smaller wave. So the waves are getting a little smaller. You can see that without the divergence, but here there is the divergence being set in. We are seeing a turnaround in the RSI. So shorter term, I do want to see this kind of correct back down into these type of areas down here where, it was just a clear resistance, and it broke. I expect it to either be support, and that's a play. We don't know what's going to happen. Definitely could do this, but why wouldn't we expect a move right here? I'll play that, but if it does this with the next candle and just completely erases this price action the past 1, 2, 3 days with the next candle, I'm going to actually expect a deeper correction, and for this to have been somewhat of a topping pattern. Okay, so it's all about how the market gets into the area of interest. So we did kind of put in a nice big bearish volume candle on this candle on Friday. It is a reversal candlestick. Like I said, if we get that type of big reversal correction, not a slow correction, if it gets there by, let's see, 12th or 13th, that's different. If it gets there by the 11th, and I think we're going to be seeing possibly a reversal. We'll just have to see how it gets there, to be honest. But this is definitely my area of interest, and I would even maybe put it up to about right there. I want to confirm it with some volume. Okay, this is some open monthly volume down here. So some people call it liquidity. I call it volume. It's honestly the same thing. And then here is the current month's volume, 106.92 on the futures market. And it just depends on your broker. You know, every broker is going to kind of give a little bit of a different volume price, to be honest. But regardless, it'll give you the same type of volume profile. And you can just see that if it does break through right here, it is most likely coming all the way down into this area. So I don't think any type of bullish plays should be made right here, because this is a wide open area down here, right? So I'll be waiting for price to get down into those areas for another move up. If I was going to fib this whole move, it would be right at the 61.8 is where I'd be looking for it. If I only wanted to fib this, it'd be the 78.6. So we have a big impulse here. Boom. Okay, that's what I'm looking at. We see 3 drives on the 4-hour. 1, 2, 3. We should see a correction. Hopefully the correction is worth playing, maybe an ABC pattern or an actual corrective continuation, somewhat of a continuation pattern. Price just gets down in there quickly, it's going to be a little bit lower probability to the upside. Okay, I'm a technical trader. I care about the technicals a lot more than I care about anything else. In my opinion, I believe the technicals can almost forecast the fundamentals in a way. And is it going to be right all the time? No way, no way. But are you going to have an idea of what could possibly happen? Because that's all technical analysis is. It's understanding the possibilities and statistics. All right. I want to bring up the news really quick of this week because we have a lot, right? We have a ton of news. So here I'm on investing.com. Let's check out the economic calendar for this week. So on Monday, this ain't going to do much. Tuesday, it's not going to do much except for the NZD. I don't personally trade the NZD, but they are anticipating a rate hike. And so you can expect the NZD to move. Usually whenever a country raises its interest rates, it is seen to be bullish for that currency. So strong NZD possibly this week. Wednesday is the big day for the fundamentals. GDP for the GBP. So they are doing a ton of news coming out on the GBP. They have the year over year GDP, the month over month, and the quarter over quarter. So it's a big numbers for them, projected to be bad. So you can maybe expect some downside on the GBPs this Wednesday. We're coming out with our inflation numbers, so this is going to be big. They're expecting 0.6. That's very bad. This is just basically measures inflation, okay? And the Fed is literally their job right now. Jerome Powell's freaking whole destiny is riding on the line right now because of the big ass hole that they put themselves in 2020, right? With printing 40% of the money supply, right? So when you do that, you have to understand that inflation is coming, right? When you increase the supply by 40%, you have to understand inflation is coming. So they knew that this was going to happen. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they actually combat it. Some people are already expecting the Fed to reverse course. And it just, look, the thing is, if these continue to rise, okay, here's how this is when we're going to know when the macro events are going to start to turn. The first thing is these numbers have to cool off. In 1 month of cool off right here, like 0.5 and then 0.3, that's not enough. We've had 0.6, 0.5, 0.3, yeah, okay, 0.6, 0.6. It needs to cool off big time. And I mean, even a 0.5, if it comes out, that'll be a good sign, but it's not necessarily 100% it, right? I want to show y'all this as well. A lot of people say the Fed raises the federal funds rates because of inflation, right? Or sometimes they raise it to combat unemployment, because that's the Fed's job. Those two things right there, unemployment and inflation. But really, the reason that they have to raise the rates is because the US bond market is roaring, okay? This is very important. If these continue to go up, which I mean, on the daily, the 10-year literally just rejected off the 78.6 and is putting in that move up right now, they're all at 3%. But if these continue to go up, there's not going to be any sign of the macro environment going anywhere, okay? And what it looks like to me, the momentum is increasing, and this is just going to do something like this, okay? And we're going to get to see these at 4% one day. What that's going to do is that's going to raise the mortgage rates. That's going to raise every type of rate, okay? And when these are at 4%, or even if it gets up to 5%, what these are is a bond. Basically, a bond is basically an something you can invest in that you will receive that percentage back. Okay, so right now, if you invest into the 30-year bond, 3.25 is what you're going to get back. So billionaires and millionaires, they do not have to worry about risk. When this thing is high, when this thing is giving you a yield of 3.25%, and you have $1 million, or a billion is, let's be honest, there's billionaires out here that run this world now, trillionaires you could say, but if they can get a 3.25% return on their money with no risk, what do you think they're gonna do? They're gonna pull their money out of all the other risk assets that they own, and they're going to put it into something that they know is going to make them money, especially when the Fed is planning on doing things that are bad for risk assets, especially when there's a possible World War III going to happen, right? Like there's no, all of this is a big macro cycle. It's not just, oh, the price is high, we got to sell it. Oh, the price is low, we got to buy it. No. It all comes together, right? And that's what people really need to understand when we're talking about the macro and everything. If you want to lay over the, let's see the NASDAQ on this, okay? And you can kind of see when this goes down, these go up, okay? Whenever yields, whenever you only get 1% on your money, they don't care about that. That's not interesting. But when you can get 3%, that's a little different. And that's when people are like, okay, fuck these risky ass assets. I've made a bunch, I'm out. So what I expect this to pull back sooner than later, right? Maybe not right away. We might see one more move up, okay? And then this is gonna pull back. People are gonna say, the market is blah, 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 blah. That'll pull back, right? What's that gonna do to the stock market? That's gonna give a stock market a bounce. It'll give it a bounce, but that's gonna be a dead cat bounce, and we're gonna see it roll over eventually. And that's what I'm thinking. And we can look at the inflation, right? And you can see just clearly, is inflation gonna stop anytime? No, why would it? Reading the charts as a technical analyst, there is no reason for inflation to just turn around, none at all. So what I think is going to happen personally, two things could happen. We might go up like this for a little bit and then correct, and people will think, oh, blah, 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 market, blah, blah, blah. But no, this is a momentum move. This is a momentum move that we will see another leg. Unless the Fed completely turns a course around and starts printing more money and digging themselves in deeper holes, this can't reverse, okay? This isn't coming back down to their target of 2%, which is what they like to keep it year over year. They like to keep it at 2%. And that's just maybe one day it'll come back there, but that'll just send it up again one day. So that's kind of like my macro thesis of everything, okay? So let's go back over to investing.com. I do want to see if we have any more data that I need to pay attention to, because I believe we do. So the CAD is raising this 0.75 rate hike. That's pretty big. Unemployment change, that's a big miss they're expecting on the Aussie. Everything just looks bad macro, terrible. Initial jobs claims, those look the same. I doubt that. Jobless claims, sorry. PPI, similar to, that's high. That's not good. And Friday we have retail sales, which, all right, so yeah, a lot of news this week. You got to be careful. Wednesday is going to be the kicker, probably. So if anything, liquidity, fucking Wyckoff setups happen before Wednesday, say that there's just a beautiful range on the GBPs, GU or something. You might want to be careful pairing GBP and USD up together on Wednesday, just because one of them could do something crazy, and then at 8:30, which would be 7:30 really my time, the other one could do something crazy, and that might throw off the vibe, less for lack of better words. How you want to read the US news is more or less on the dollar. You want to read like, okay, inflation is bad. Inflation is worse. That's going to make people sell their stocks because they're saying, okay, the fucking Fed sucks. They can't get this shit under control. I'm pulling out. They're going to sell stocks. Well, what is that going to do to the dollar? That's going to make the dollar go up. So you gotta know what the data is actually going to do to the currency and how it's going to affect the overall market, right? So that's enough of the fundamentals. I fucking hate fundamentals. Here's how I'm going to play this. If the dollar can break this significant level, right, which it almost has, I'll be looking for some type of, I'll play the head and shoulders. How about that? If it comes up here with force like this, and look for some type of a divergence fib up here. It's pretty simple on the dollar this week, actually. It really is. This is the last week's volume is also the same as the current month. Let's see some dailies. Really, Friday is right there as well. So maybe that is a price that we need to respect. If I go down lower, it goes up higher. This right here is where all the news was, and I want to see it sink down, maybe something like this, little S break. Because if it just continues up, I mean, I'm not going to not want to sell it up here. I'm going to look for some type of option, some type of play. And if it breaks like with some type of momentum and holds right here, it could be something like this even. I'm more or less bearish on it to come down into maybe the daily 50 EMA, which would be down into this level. So that would be my area this week to really take advantage of it to go back up. But on the lower time frame, like I said, if it kind of pops right here, then I'll look for something. Really, it's just the opposite on the euro. Okay, the weekly is breaking this low ridiculously, but the volume is drying up right here just the same as the dollar. So we did increase in volume a little bit, but when you get this big of a candle, you want to see this big of volume. You want to see this big of a candle. You want to see big volume. You want to see big volume. No, I didn't have big volume, but they didn't have the biggest volume ever. Now the momentum broke. There's definitely momentum to the downside. I'm not bullish yet, like super bullish, but I will note this is definitely somewhat of something. Like I'm seeing some type of reversal coming in. If I was to maybe look at this, it's maybe breaking a little bit of the divergence, but it still has somewhat of an ugly divergence drive to it right here to here. Even on the RSI, you can see from like here to here, it's just giving me this divergence look. If we're bringing this to maybe do something like that, we are getting really close to interesting, you know, channel areas. If I just copy and paste and bring it over, right? So is it getting ready to just move up right now? Maybe, but I also think it has an opportunity to go a little lower. Just like that divergence fib on the dollar, I think this has an opportunity to just roll a little bit lower. It did kind of make this falling wedge, and it might be breaking out, but you can see this 50 EMA coming in for support. I don't really care for EMAs. It's just maybe on the higher time frame I care for them a little bit more, but I'm really not an EMA trader. This is obviously a level where price is going to most likely get back into eventually, but this is where the volume is really at. So let's bring it back to the daily and look at some monthly volume real quick. 2 months worth of volume. So I'm just going to note this as some monthly volume. Current month is all the way down here. It's not really going to give us much to play, I don't think. It's just right on it. That'll move this month. So, or move this week, depending on where the market goes. I guess I should just mark it up to show that it's going to move. Current month. Okay, and now we will go down to lower time frames to see the weekly point of control, and last week is literally right here as well. So I'll just put that here, last week. Interesting prices. So what that's telling me is if price gets below these areas and it stays below, we're probably coming lower. But if it gets above it and it shows low right now, to me, it's showing lack of bullishness, really. Like the way it ended on Friday with no volume trying to break above here just looks to me like it's probably going to roll over. And if that's the case, then I need to fib this correction for the divergence fib. Inversely, then the DXY, right? I would like to see what happens down here. That would bring the 4-hour divergence. Let's see if there's a drive up here. Yeah, so if the market does make another move down, this would need to come down, and I don't think it's going to come down below this. I think this would come down, maybe stay above this moving average would be a nice confirmation. Either way, I would be looking for a mean reversion bounce if price came down here. Not necessarily a macro reversal. I don't like to catch very bottoms and tops of macro reversal moves. I would rather just play it for a mean reversion back into these levels or this 50 EMA, right? GBP USD is more or less in an area where exact type of same shit, really. Weekly, real quick. We put in this kind of wick actually on the weekly, so a little bit better price action, not as weak as the euro. This is kind of this price area that I've been looking at here. We've rejected a bunch of weeks and we actually stayed above it. So, I'm kind of thinking that the GBP is getting ready to turn around, to be honest. It came all the way back into this clear, manipulation area, okay, fake, and then just bought it right back out of that, and then boom. So most likely we're back into that area. Most likely we should see a reaction. If it's not a macro move, it's not a macro move. But I think there is actually a good possibility right here for the GBP to start to move before the euro probably, and before the dollar a little bit. And that's one of them is going to start moving before the others. So to me, this one just has the best opportunity. It has complete 3 drives of the divergence. So 1, 2, and then this one right here. I like it to usually go a little bit lower to really complete the pattern as well. You can see it didn't necessarily hit this pattern, but nonetheless, just a pretty obvious falling wedge. If you're a technical analyst, you've probably been looking at this for a minute as well. Same thing with the RSI. The RSI divergence is pretty obvious. So when this thing does break out, I would say even just of an RSI breakout at this point, we're probably going to see it move to the upside. It most likely will have some struggle right here at this structure point at the 4 hour. So we can bring that up on the 4 hour right here, obvious area of resistance that's going to come into the market at some point. Just a lot of volume right there as well. But yeah, last week, I mean, it failed to make this new low, and it's almost switched this structure on the 4 hour. And it's a little early to tell, but when you see a reversal pattern and then you see structure start to shift, those are the moments where I think it's really high probability of a risk to reward. So I'm kind of in favor of a bullish whatchamacallit. Now this will be an area GBP. This will be an area right here, monthly POC, and this was last month. So that was June, and that would be the pretty much the target. If price breaks out this week or next or whenever, that would be my area that I would just, in that you can see that's the area that I kind of highlighted at first. So that makes sense. Weekly, let's go to a 1 hour and see. Last week is, and this will be the price that I play this week, right? If GBP gets down here into last week's POC, then I'm gonna look for buys. And it's just simple as that. I don't care if I'm right or wrong. It's an opportunity. This didn't break this low. I like the way this came up. If it breaks this high, that would make this a lot stronger in my opinion. But even so, I'm okay with taking this risk right here with this volume being right there. If it doesn't extend out into these areas like this and start to make this move, regardless, I think there will be a reaction good enough to take some type of a play off of. Okay, so I'll be definitely looking for that. I think this is a good opportunity. Now how price gets there, that will be the kicker really. But yeah, it looks better than the euro, I'll tell you that, right? And just to make sure, the euro did not put in a higher low when this put in a higher low, right? So just wanted to show the difference right there. And then AU, or the Australian dollar, frankly, is what I meant to say. We have the monthly volume right here on the weekly, and it's the same thing pretty much. It hasn't moved down near as much as the euro or the GBP. I keep forgetting like the word GBP, but nonetheless, it's still bearish, kind of in a bearishness trend. Let's bring out the impulse fibs, and it hasn't quite made it into like extreme bullish territory, but to me, that's telling me that this actually has more strength, maybe long-term in the macro, right? Long-term in the macro, this probably has a little bit more opportunity to make a bigger move out of here. So when the dollar eventually turns around, if and when it turns around, the Australian dollar is probably going to be one to really start getting going. Just like right here, if you remember this time of trading, the Aussie was bumping, and it was like AU was moving way faster than it ever has. And that's because the Aussie was just jumping out the gym. And if this is somewhat of a move right here, usually in a super trending market or a super bullish move, you don't get that big long pullback. You just get a regular pullback. And I mean, this would be a long pullback. This looks more corrective, more regular. It would send this up all the way into these type of areas. And that would make sense, like straight up, that would make so much sense. But now it's not even close to ready, I don't think. Last week was a bullish week, but it didn't do much. I think they raised their rates last week. Yeah, they raised their rates last week. They had a pretty good, they put in a higher low. This one looks even better than the GBP in my opinion. So It failed to break these lows, and then it broke this high. Now, this is something we really have to watch, guys, because since it didn't break the low right here, that's a little concerning. And I'm not sure what this is, but that's a little concerning that these equal lows are just chilling here like this. Either way, if it gets swept out at some point this week, we'll be watching for it to come back into this. Okay, that's what I'll be expecting on that. I won't be expecting it to create a new lower low like this, and I could be so freaking wrong about that. This could extend to the downside big time right now, and realistically I should probably be looking for that move, but with the failing to break the low, getting above the 50 EMA, I'm just feeling more bullish on this than anything. And there really has been a lot of divergence in this. They've just raised the rates. It's trying to break out. I'm watching for somewhat of a lower time frame breakout right in this area. So this is pretty much the area that we're watching. It needs to break out of this area. If it impulses down at any moment, it's going to come into this liquidity. So it's really easy to play off of that. The Aussie is either going to break out of this, and of course when it breaks out it needs to have high volume, because if it doesn't, then that's going to be a fake out. But if it breaks out with high volume, the trend is like starting to get set in. I would expect something like this, because technically this is a longer term accumulation in my opinion. And so even just right here is a little bit of an accumulative range, and we could see one more spike. I would expect it to do this though. Okay, so I'm starting to feel more bullish on some of the currencies against the dollar, right? But we all know that the dollar is still super strong. I just think that this week there might be somewhat of a correction, right? And if this does correct, where would it go to? Well, this is another area right here, obviously, that is just pretty strong in price. And then so that area is good enough for me. On the 4 hour, that would bring it up into this pretty much this area of liquidity. If it gets into there, really got to watch to see if it's going to hold, how it corrects after that, how the volume looks on the correction, and all that jazz. So I would say the Australian dollar it looked the strongest last week. Then the pound looked like it might want to, show some strength this week. The euro is way too early to call it, but if it gives a breakout, it'll have a really good setup on this fake move right here that occurred. So I'm watching to see if the USD is going to reverse. Let's take a look at the yen. Now the yen is in a very interesting spot on even like a monthly or yearly, okay? Because if we put up well, you can just see it on the monthly chart. This is the lowest low over here, and we are currently on a weekly. Last week it was a bearish week, very small candle, not a lot of volume. That's called harmony. That's okay. There's nothing to read off of that, but we're at the all-time lows. So I'm not expecting it to pop yet, but I do expect possibly, like I'm not bearish. I don't care to sell shit when it's at all-time lows, which we can just go ahead and make this say that old all-time lows, right? And let's make it not red. Let's definitely not make it black. Okay, daily, and let's see. Current month, the volume hasn't necessarily, we haven't gone anywhere with the volume yet. Tapped into last month's volume and hasn't broken above it. You know, in all reality, this needs to show some type of a bullish day with high volume for me to even confirm that this has a chance, because this was the first bullish candle that I even said, well, technically, when this happened, you know, I was like, oh, it might get ready to go. But usually on the first signal, it's never hit. So it came back down. We had this move, and I said, maybe it's ready, but I'm going to wait for this. Never did. Came back, get another opportunity, never broke structure. So really, just all it needs to do is break some structure, because right now it hasn't broke lows yet. So it did put in a volume candle, a nice volume spike with nothing here. So the 50 EMA is riding down. If it starts to break and hold above the 50A with a 50 EMA with a nice candle, you know, we can expect maybe a move like this. Come back, hold above the old all-time lows, and then move out, right? That's really what I expect on the yen. That's what I want to play. So if that does happen, I'm not going to hesitate, right? I literally have no idea what is ever going to happen in the market. Nobody has any idea. But if it does what you think it's going to do, just like when you're playing fucking poker and you don't know what the next card is going to come out, but that you're gambling, you're looking and saying, oh, I have this. If this next card comes out, I'm betting right now. So like, you don't have to bet yet. Like, you get to wait. You know what I'm saying? It's the same mindset though. I do want to mark off this monthly current month just because it is a little bit closer. There might be an opportunity to the downside, to be honest, on these, and I don't necessarily want to trade them to the downside, but it just is what it is. It looks like it's going to keep going down. Let's try to sell it. Last week is right here, so there's going to be a lot of movement right here, most likely. I'm even going to go see if there was daily, and this was some daily POC volume right there. So that's probably going to get hit. That's not as important as these levels. So yeah, the yen is going to do one of two things. Literally, it's either going to come up into this level and reject it. And if it does show rejection in these levels, you can expect price to probably come take out these lows and do another test of it to see if there's any more supply, because that's what it's doing as it comes down here. It's testing to see how the supply and demand levels really are. Okay. And so if it comes into this level and it rejects, we can expect this to drop. If it comes into this level and it breaks these like we're kind of expecting, then we will be looking for this pullback. Boom. That will send all of the yens down, all of them. Not exactly sure how it's going to affect the dollar, but if the yen has this big of a move, which would be considered big for the yen, the dollar most likely is doing the opposite of this. Okay. If any of the currencies have this type of a reaction this week, the dollar is probably doing the opposite, which we don't necessarily think the dollar's just going to reverse, but we want it to, for a correction, just for an opportunity. The Swiss franc on the monthly time frame, okay, it's coming into this level where, you know, if it's gonna go sideways forever, then I'm gonna want to look to buy it soon, because I don't necessarily think it's gonna come down all the way here. Okay, I could be totally wrong, but with the 2 months prior price action with volume increasing, I'm kind of thinking that we're going to see a move back into this type of range first and then down. And that's kind of what I want to see, at least. The weekly is not giving me that love right now at all. So definitely got to be a little patient on everything I'm talking about if I'm trying to buy, because that type of price action usually sends price way down. Let's go to, you know, the volume wasn't completely there though. So that's one thing. I'm not super convinced. This 50 EMA is just getting hit perfectly. It makes me want to like hide it. On the daily, right, when the market starts going a little bit of sideways action, that's when your EMA literally is pointless. But check this out. We get this random volume spike with not a lot of movement. That's interesting to me a little bit. Really, this could just be inside of a channel as well, right? And it is perfectly in a channel, so I'm going to keep it like that. And if price gets down into the bottom of the channel, that's when I'm pulling the trigger. But at the same time, depending on how the dollar moves, this can move up at any point, because if you just kind of see how the waves, this is a lot more stronger. This to me seems a lot more corrective. This seems a lot more stronger. This seems more corrective. It's almost balanced out pretty well, but it is flowing to the upside just a little bit, as you can see with the channel. So since the daily flow of this correction is more bullish, I'm going to wait for higher time probability bullish options. But I mean, I clearly understand that this is the momentum, and we've just started to go sideways, and we could just ABC correct out of that and it could tank. But the way it's moving doesn't show me that's the way it wants to really move, right? Very corrective. So we could even draw another channel inside of this channel. And channels, I like channels more than trend lines. You could say they're the same thing, but to me, it actually just shows good order flow of the market, right? This has a lot of divergence inside it right now. So I do expect maybe a correction, but it doesn't give me any reason to want to buy it yet. It's just been making lower lows all week. There's not really a clean area besides, let's see, I mean, this was at one point failed, kind of broken, retested above it. That would be, just a clean area. And let me just confirm that, see if there's any volume around there. A little bit lower. Okay. This month's volume is right here. That's important. Current month. That's price is probably going to get up there soon. Let me see where the weekly is. Yeah, price is most likely going to gravitate towards that pretty soon. Weekly POC. And if it doesn't, we're coming most likely down into this level, into this weekly POC, which would make sense down at the bottom around here. And there is, let's see, daily volumes. Yep, there's daily volume up here. The only way I'll be looking to get into this, though, I would need to see a spike down, low volume, and then a spike up. I will take that like that. If it does this and doesn't get there, I will still take that. But once it gets there, I don't know if I think it's going to come all the way up here into this level. So it's getting exhausted, though, right? It's definitely getting exhausted. I'm looking for some type of a fake out or some type of an impulse. What sucks about these type of moves is that you can tell they're getting exhausted, and it will impulse out sometimes, but sometimes the demand just quite isn't there yet, and it will give you the best looking flag to then just give a manipulation move and then actually do what you want. So sometimes it sucks playing the impulse when it doesn't manipulate, but either way, I think it's in a clean spot. And you can see the manipulation would hit the 61.8, and there is some daily volume right here. So that's actually a really clean look. That's a really clean look. I want to make sure that there is actually levels of volume right here, because this candle just demolished this. So I mean, yeah, if it doesn't hold right here, guys, it's definitely coming down into there. You can see that pretty clearly on the whole volume scale. All right, and then the CAD, last but not least. I don't look at the NZD So if you're an NZD trader, it's probably going to do similar to the AUD, and that's just how that goes. CAD is correcting similar to the AUD. Okay, they look extremely similar on the macro. Go ahead and just put these out like that. And, you know, it might have one more move down longer term and then probably start to make its way to the upside. It does look like last week at the end of the week, it had a little pop to it. Okay, so yeah, like I said, I think this probably has a little bit more downside to it with this, with these equal lows just looking too clean. We had this move down, we're below the channel, probably going to see something like this on the CAD, maybe all the way up into here before it drops. The CAD, I think, likes to go sideways a little bit first and then it makes its moves. So, you know, it might, let's just extend this all the way down here. It might do something like this. Okay, and then make this move down. I don't know how this is really going to play out. I'm not a big CAD trader as well. To me, this looks a little bit of like a preliminary stop action, selling climax, ARST, another test, and phase B. We're probably going to come up in here. Then we're going to spike down. If it does all of that jazz, that's a pretty clean Wyckoff accumulation to look to send it up, to be honest. But right now, it is really just in this range, and you got to just play that range. If you want to maybe question this, that's there. I definitely see the possibility of this with the, you know, high supply that came in big time right here. So I definitely see this option. I would like to see the 1 hour form some type of divergence. So maybe one more move down, one more move up. Looks like a little bit of manipulation happened right there. So let's just, yeah, I think this would actually be the perfect setup. If it could come back into this area, come down, and then make one more move up, right? I mean, maybe the 15 is getting ready anyways. But one more move up, send this down, and then have this type of divergence, send this down and have this type of divergence. And that would give me more of an indication for this to stop right here and go down. But right now, the momentum is still kind of making higher highs. We're not even oversold area actually. So a lot of things aren't necessarily lining up for that to fall just yet. If it's gonna fall in this area, it might take out these highs, right? It might take out those highs. But I'm gonna keep that there for now. And that is the currencies. So long story short, dollar's still probably going to go up higher. I don't even need this shit. Dollar's probably going to go up higher into this level. But if it breaks this zone, I'm going to look for a correction down into this imbalanced area. Once it gets here, I would love to see some type of bullish divergence to then send it up. If that doesn't happen, then we're looking for a possible divergence play right here to send it into back down, basically just back down to a mean reversion. Nothing crazy. The euro is a little bit weaker than the pound and the Aussie, which is here. They put in lower highs last week. This one, the euro didn't. The yen has a possibility this week to break its old all-time highs, but it's below it, so still bearish. And similar, it has the CHF has a possibility to make a breakout retest. It has the possibility, right? But I want to really see the manipulation first and then the move. I want to see that on same thing with the CAD. If it's going to, you know, long-term move up, I kind of want to see these lows down here get hit, manipulated, and then see it kind of move up, and then question if I want to sell it right here or not. This could be a play. It's just not as high probability, right? So we're moving on to the indices, right? The indices, and I need to switch the view over here to this guy and go over here. All right, so I got the indices up. We're going to look at them like this, comparing the relative strength to one another, right? So on the top, we have US 30, middle, NASDAQ, bottom, S&P. 30, 100, 500. All right, on the weekly, let's see, we got to make sure that these are on symbol, they are on interval, they are not on, they're on time, they're not on date range, I think is what it is. Let's see, weekly, E-mini. So yeah, this one needs to be the NASDAQ, and this one needs to be son of a gun. Let's take symbol, that needs to be on. So is it interval? Why do they make these not necessarily easy? This is not interval. I guess it is symbol. 30, NASDAQ, and S&P. All right, that works. And if I do this, okay. So you can see, obviously they do the same shit. Let's go into the week candles. Not a lot of volume necessarily. It's not like there was more volume, but I would say that, you know, the NASDAQ had a better week. Let's go on to the daily, and you can really see how the NASDAQ started to break above some structures here almost. Okay, let's see how close it got on the S&P. Very similar, but not as close. You can see the distance right here. And then up here, we also didn't quite get there. So the NASDAQ is definitely showing a little bit of strength against the other two. So I would say if you're looking to sell one of them, probably not the NASDAQ, right? So I wanted to point that out. It looks like actually the Dow is a lot further than all of them. So that's kind of interesting to me if I'm looking for bearish moves. Let me straighten this out. If you hold down shift, it'll straighten out your lines. Right? If I go, okay, go over here, hold shift. Okay, now the volume on this move up is very much not there for me. So I'm not expecting, I don't think I'm expecting this to move up much higher. I don't know if it's worth selling right here. In my opinion, it looks kind of like an ABC correction is forming. So we're getting this impulse, and then we get an A, a B, and a C. And then I think we're gonna fall off from that. There's definitely no way to tell. We could definitely double top right here. It is an area of structure. If we just pull this over to the right, left, you know, structure is over here. And structure can be highs and lows, and structure areas can, key levels can be just straight up congestion levels, right? But I'm not a fan, honestly, of the bears just yet, I don't think. Let me see if there's any bearish divergence. So I need to throw on my indicators because they're not on yet. And it's going to look a little weird at first. Give me 1 second. And I'm going to look at the NASDAQ first. So let's go ahead. Wrong button. There we go. Okay, the NASDAQ is kind of putting in a topping signal on the daily. Let me see what this 4 hour is saying. Suggesting a top, maybe. It's definitely not in breakout mode. I just wanted to see what that looks like. Maybe a weekly. Yeah. Weekly is putting in, it's getting close to a bottom. Okay. And honestly, it looks like this is getting ready to turn around. So once that white moving average turns to the downside and this other moving average breaks below it, that'll be really a good signal for this to maybe have put in a low for now. Still not ready in my opinion yet. This is expanding down, so we're probably gonna go sideways until this gets into the blue, and then we're gonna see a breakout either to the upside or the downside, depending on kind of which way this market really wants to go. But right now on the 4 hour, there is some divergence. So I'm not against the sells, swing here, swing here. I'm not against the bears yet. Right now, I'm just a little baby back when it comes to this stuff, I guess, right now, because I just don't want to sell it yet. It is kind of giving a really nice opportunity. Let's go to the divergence fib and I'll look at this. If the market gets all the way up here, and it's really a 1 hour, so whatever. But if the market gets up there with divergence still, that would be a little bit more enticing for me to make a play, just because it would take these highs. It is in an area right here. I bet there's liquidity, and that would make it a little bit more enticing for me, especially with the amount of divergence on the 1 hour, as this market has just gone up, up. If it makes another wave up and it still has this divergence, I think that's a really solid confirmation that we're probably going to head down. Why is my volume not on? I mean, the volume is kind of dry on the lower time frames, but not super duper crazy. Where's the week? The monthly current month is down here. We'll see if that holds up. Let's see what some other monthly prices like up here. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So ultimately, this is a price where it could gravitate to. That'd be another area where I would look for it to reject. And if I'm talking the technical patterns, the ABC is supposed to be a measured move of the A to C is supposed to be a measured move. And that would almost give a perfect technical target to that monthly with time and price at the same time. So you can see, do it this way. Okay, here's the correction. If I just copy and paste that and bring it over here, it would be, we're getting pretty close to that, right? If it does kind of make a quick move up, that would be really close to a completed ABC wave, right? On the flip side, if it makes one more move to the downside, we can pretty much expect that to be a possible macro low, okay? Just for now, at least, because this many drives of divergence is just pretty clear to me that a market is getting ready to make a correction, at least. So if we do put in this right here, if it taps up a little higher and starts to reject, get ready to see either a reaction right here to say fuck all this, or just a complete meltdown. It really depends on inflation numbers and I guess next month is it this month? When is the Fed doing their rate hike? I think it's next week. So a lot to play, a lot's going to happen. If it does something like this, okay, we already have this move. If it does this, a lot of people are going to be calling for the inverted head and shoulders. It's going to be a lot of liquidity basically built up. And in my opinion, it was going to go to the downside if there's a lot of liquidity. So these are going to do very similar things. You can see how it has a lot more. It would have to move up a lot more to come up into anything of a fib like the NASDAQ, right? The NASDAQ is kind of more compressed right here. US 30 is a little bit more open on that move. Same with S&P, it would have to come up a little bit more. And I want to keep this here. These are probably going to get hit. Just equal highs, just chilling. Most likely going to get hit, and the divergence fib for this would be way up here. That's pretty damn high. So I'm not sure if that's where it kind of looks like this little order block might hold. And it might be a position that I have to look at. But also this divergence could be a little sooner. And that would be a little bit sketchy. I wouldn't play that just because the equal highs are right there. So this is either going to fall like right now. I guess if it breaks structure, I'll look to take it into the current month POC. Other than that, it's probably going to do something like this. If it breaks with volume, I'll be looking for maybe something like that, or like a deeper move. I'm not sure how it's going to play out. I want to look at the VIX because the VIX now after let's look at gold next, and then I'm going to look at some sub markets, just some markets that we don't really trade that I kind of just need to analyze. And if you want me to look at a specific pair, I'll do that. But this analysis is really just to get my feet wet on all the currencies, and then I know which ones to kind of drill into. Really, AU kind of looks like an interesting one. So does GU. I wouldn't trade EU right now unless there's a breakout. The UJ, right? Dollar looks like it's probably going to go up, but if it slips down, that would make UJ go down. But if the yen gets bullish, that would make UJ go really down. So if the dollar gets bearish at any point and the yen gets bullish at any point, we need to look at UJ. Gold on the weekly. To me, for some reason, it looks like Bitcoin, like just a topping pattern, and this is just going to end up I don't care. Weekly, it didn't put in a lot of volume on this move down, but just a clear momentum move. I'm not looking for gold to just turn around. It could, because gold is notorious for putting in a big candle one week and then a big candle the next. But right now, that's not how I'm looking for it. We had momentum increase as price dropped. Then we have this little two corrective candles with no volume. It's not necessarily telling me that price just wants to move up like that at all. We still have this low to take out that hasn't gotten taken out yet, and this low. We did take these lows, so there might be a pop, but in the end, regardless this week, I'm looking for gold to continue down if it corrects up higher. I need to see a decent correction first, because I mean, it's just too low. But the confirmation is the move down and the higher volume, the continuing volume, that's really showing the good possible continuation. Now, it sometimes will give that volume signature at the bottom of a trend as well, but usually you see it's like you'll see that happen, and then you'll see a continuation, and the next move is the real like volume signature. Okay, let's see if there's an example. I guess it went sideways for the longest. Let's see at the top, right? So look right here, it broke this structure with this move, and it increased in volume, and then it kind of went sideways for a little bit, and then it had, I mean, technically this was the end of the trend, right? The high volume signature was the end of the trend. So what was the signature? What was before that? We had this move still. Okay, so it corrected, and then we ended up breaking that. So this ended up getting broken eventually. Okay, that's similar to what I'm speaking of over here. This eventually, I don't know what this is going to do, but eventually it's going to get broken through. So how I'm going to play gold this week is going to be interesting, because I do expect it to pull back, but I am the thing about it is there's not a lot of volume right here. Okay, the price is most likely going to move fast through these areas like it did previously, and there's just nothing to really look at. Let me see if I can get some other volume in here. That's more price. Come on. Oh, that's the wrong one. Okay. All right, that price right there is pretty interesting. Let me bring in less price. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of showing what I think is going to happen. There's not a lot of volume right here, so it's probably just going to move smoothly up into this area where there is volume, and then just make another leg down. I don't see why it wouldn't want to make another leg down. Clearly, it's in a downtrend, making lower lows and lower highs with really clean corrective patterns. So I am just going to expect it to continue to do the same thing it's been doing. Bars pattern, maybe something, you know, after this type of a move, we get something like this. So maybe something like that on gold, more longer term. If we're going to play it this week, it's kind of hard to want to buy it just yet, in my opinion, for the correction, because it's just going sideways. It could easily just dump out, boom. But if we're talking Wyckoff, this would technically be the preliminary support. This would be the selling climax, and we could maybe form somewhat of an accumulation to try to bring it up. It could be a failed accumulation and just be a redistribution and fall, or redistribution and fall. But I think it's something to look at for definitely for a Wyckoff standpoint right here. So we have somewhat of a preliminary support, selling climax. If we can get a move like this and then we come back down, that would be the ST in phase B. Okay, then we come back up into the range, then we fall back, and however it moves, if it just goes sideways right here, then we take the buy. If it goes more of a, starts to form more of a trend down, then we'll wait for a spring, and we'll wait for this to break. Okay, we'll wait for this to break. Then if it comes back above, we'll strike here. So gold, to me, I'm waiting. I like the way gold looks, actually, to be honest. I want to try to play this accumulation and try to catch, something on the DL for a retracement. Now, I understand that this thing could just drop, and that's cool. I also understand that it might have already kind of put in that spring on the lower time frames, and it might be doing that little sideways already, and we can see this thing go. So if you want to maybe try to play something early this week, you're super early, but it could pay off on gold right here at the 78.6 on this type of retracement pop. There was some manipulation prior to that, so that's the only reason why I'm even debating that move right there. It does look like a little build up. right here. Okay. 1, 2, spring, pop out. 1, 2, spring, pop out. So it's a possibility. I'm not a Sunday trader, so I'll be watching Monday. If it does do this, well, then I'll be watching for this and playing that. If it stops right here, then I'll be watching for it to come down. Okay, pretty easy stuff on gold right now. Now what I need to do is look at Bitcoin, and I need to look at both of these because they're different. And I did all that on the index features, didn't I? Oh well. Okay, weekly on Bitcoin is trying its best, but it's not wanting to make a new high necessarily. It's kind of failing. Let's go to the volume on that. Nothing to look at. On the daily, it is putting in a bearish pattern. Lower volume on this broker. It's just, I guess, the TradingView index. I'm not sure where they even get their data, but nonetheless, it's kind of stopping at this resistance point. If it does at any moment break here, it's probably coming up to here pretty fast, which is 27, 28 area. That's where I would expect it to get to rather quickly. And then at that moment, it would be an, oh shit, was this the bottom? But I still am kind of holding firm in the 1, 2, 3 drive type look on this downside move. If we get this, I don't care how low this third drive goes, that's going to be my, bottom in and I'm expecting some type of move out. Most likely it's going to do something like this though, and just go insanely sideways once it makes its way down here to make people believe that this thing is just done for. And regardless, that'll just give me more time to add into every single time that the market does go down into these crazy prices. If it goes lower into the insane prices we've talked about, you just got to have capital to be able to invest into it, to be honest. Because you can't be scared to invest into the #1 crypto in the world. Same with Ethereum. It's the same shit. I am expecting lower prices on Ethereum. It has similar 3 drive pattern to it. So this would be like the first, like 1 sideways, 2 sideways, and then the third one down is going to be, possible. And it could do whatever it wants to do down here, accumulate however it wants. And then when no one is looking, we're going to see a move out, another move out, and it's just going to do the parabolic move once again. And it could take all the way till October. It could take all the way till November, December. Fuck, it could take forever. But nonetheless, I am waiting for somewhat of a better looking pattern. I like the Wyckoff triple bottom type look. So something like this even. Let's see if we can get a capitulation and then something like this and then a run up like that would be literally ideal. So let me just move this, take this. So I would like to see one more capitulative move, right? One more downside. And where that ends up, I mean, we're not going to go to negative 4,000. So regardless, I want to see this pattern basically. I guess I took too much of that. Let's just talk about it from right here. then this. That would make more sense. Probably one more. Ah, shit. That's still bringing it out of the park. Maybe if I log this up, it'll do that different. Second, out of the park. So we look a lot better now. Okay, yeah. That's what I want to see for Ethereum, really. You know, and one more move down and then an accumulative pattern. And that would look like this on the MACD. Okay, this move down, we get this move down and it would send it into the perfect 3 drive pattern. Okay, and then off of that, we would probably never make another low in the MACD. Maybe close to it, but probably not. Even though this is kind of hitting these lows, the MACD probably wouldn't hit those lows. And that would be the picture perfect accumulation for me, at least. I think it definitely has a chance to get that low, probably even lower. And since I have this logged out, I want to now take it from this top and see if it has a chance to. I don't care about if it pops out, but now does this go to 0? Because I like to take what has actually happened in the past. It has actually moved this much in 15 days, right? Or way less than that, really. But so that's actual data that's actually happened. And that would send it into the 5s. That's definitely possible. So I think, you know, to think that's not possible is just ignorant, okay? Let me see if I can find another accumulative type move or capitulative type move, I mean, right here. Okay, we had a build up and then it just tanked and we shot out. So that could be, I don't think this is how this market is going to play out this time, just because when that happened right here, that was when the Fed was injecting money into the system. Right now, they're not doing that, but it is still another capitulation pattern that could work. Okay, it could definitely do this, sending it down into, you know, the 400s, right? So look at another something. I just want to find kind of all the capitulations that it's made. This would somewhat be one. I would say I could see that happening again. Let's see if that is realistic. I mean, that wouldn't be very, that wouldn't do a whole lot, honestly. Just bring it down a little bit, test these lows. So I don't care about that one. Back on the last bear market. And here we go. Let's look at all the bear markets. That's a very real scenario. Let's talk about this one right here. Okay. Bear market was set in 16, and then 17, it really started to pick up. But this is something that I think could be very possible. We get somewhat of a capitulation. We accumulate from that. We think we're coming up, but then we make one more dump and then we go. That I think would make sense to me more timing wise with how the macro is looking. So I could probably just copy this and paste it over there, but my ass is just gonna roll it over here like a fucking wheelchair. Almost there. Because Ethereum is the one I'm playing, right? I'm all in on Ethereum. I'm not all in. I have Bitcoins, but I'm adding to Ethereum more than any of the other ones. So let me just move these for a second. Just put them over here. Over here. Yeah, I like the way that that looks the most, to be honest. And that would probably give the weekly time to form the divergence that I want to see on the weekly, right? So um, this is getting ready to turn around, but it's not quite like bullish. But if we could get one more capitulative move, okay, that could bring this down a little bit more, but then it would send this up as prices coming up, right? Then we get one more move down in price, and I would really expect the MACD on the weekly to hold and show 3 drives on the weekly, and this would be the third one. So if we can get that, this would be perfect, right? This would be absolutely perfect for a structure on Ethereum to play. I'm not even going to look at another one because that's exactly what we need to happen. It has so much opportunity to come down all the way to 500 or lower. I would say at any given week, there could be it really can, but it could be a 50% sell off at any given week, 1 week, 50%. Because you got to think, and this is where you really have to think like the composite man. You have to think a step ahead, okay? If you are the people who run the market, right? You're the ones who get to really control this shit. What you are is you're essentially the same as a wholesaler, okay? You are literally the same as Walmart or Costco, right? Your job is to buy inventory, buy stock, buy crypto, buy whatever that your market is. You buy it low as you can find it. You buy it as low as you can find it. You figure out the distributions and the logistics and all that stuff, and you get it as cheap as you can get it because you plan on what? Selling it to others. So if that's the plan, okay, if that's how the wholesale retail works, right? You're the wholesaler, you buy it cheap. Eventually you're planning to, hopefully you buy a product that you bought it before it blows up, right? Let's talk about the Ledger Nano X. The people who created this, okay, at first they put it up for a certain price, right? And then the demand increased. So whoever bought these, maybe someone purchased 1,000 of them on Amazon when it was only $100. Well, now it's 150. So they bought it wholesale technically, and now they're able to sell it $50 more. Okay, that is how this whole market works. All they want to do is buy it as cheap as they can and then sell it to us at as high as a price that they can get it up at. Okay, now they have to have liquidity in order to place their positions. Okay, they cannot just put in billions and billions and quadrillions and billions of dollars in right now and expect these prices to get filled, right? So if they just bought literally everything they wanted right here, right now, what it would do is price would go like this. It would start gapping just like this, and their order, the price that they put $1 billion in at 1190, a tenth of it would go in right here, another tenth would go in right here, another tenth, another tenth, another tenth, another tenth, another tenth. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, that's how their position would get actually filled. So at the end of the filling of their position, they would be putting their last position at 2,500 because the amount of volume that they would be putting into the market would literally move the market up that fast. Now, maybe not exactly those numbers, take that with a grain of salt, but that means that if they want to, and they do, if they actually are accumulating something, they have to do it strategically. And what they have to do is whenever everyone is selling, okay, whenever everyone is selling, they actually have to buy in order to use that liquidity to offset their crazy ass orders. Okay. So whenever these big candles come in, okay, the big selling candles with wicks at the bottom, especially, that is the transfer of the retail into the strong money, the strong hands, technically, the wholesalers. And what they have to do now, okay, now price is cheaper than it was, okay? Obviously, they accumulated down here and distributed this off perfectly. Okay, the way that they have to sell off is very similar to the way they have to buy. They cannot just sell price off is all at once, or else it would just dup, and they wouldn't get their full profit. But you can see whenever they do start to sell off quickly, what happens? Price falls fast, and that's what happened. Insiders definitely knew what was good. They completed a beautiful distribution pattern, and now the campaign is to the downside, and the campaign can remain to the downside until they figure out the real supply and demand levels. If we're looking at this really on like how you can see that this created such a beautiful distribution, we really need to see that on a weekly for the other side. And what that would look like would be something like this. Maybe we would get a pop and a little bit of a rally right here, but then ultimately come back down and form that real long range that I really want to see. And if we can get this, guys, that's going to be the best opportunity in crypto I think we will ever see, ever again. So for now on Ethereum, you know, I'm expecting some downside. Here's my target. My next position on Ethereum is going to be 600. I don't want to miss it. So 700 on Ethereum is really 630. So 650 is fair, but 700 right here, I will be striking in my Coinbase account, taking that shit right off Coinbase and putting it into my ledger. So it's important right now to make sure you don't have your money on a crypto exchange at any point. Look, what's really going to happen is when this thing, when guys, when Bitcoin breaks these lows, and I don't know when it will, I don't know at all if it does, if it even will. If there is a break of this low, there will be some exchange that gets liquidated. There will be something big that happens in the market, and it could be your exchange. I already know some people who were on the Voyager exchange, and their shit is gone. They do not know if they're getting their money back at all. So it's a real thing. If your shit is on an exchange, please message me and I will help you get it off. There are other cheaper routes than the 150 Ledger Nano, but guys, it's important to get your shit off of the exchange right now. Let's look at XRP, because I just, oh boy, man, I was excited for this to have a potential opportunity. I don't think it necessarily does. There is not a lot of volume with this move down. That is actually a signal that this might not be a real move to the downside at all. Look, there's no volume with this move, and there usually is not a lot of volume over a weekend, but regardless, that is just none. I got to look at another XRP chart now. RP, crypto. let's look at Binance. Probably has the most volume on it anyway. Okay, yeah, I was like, what the fuck is going on? So there was volume on this move down. That's good. And what about the daily volume on Binance? Okay, good. I'm going to use Binance instead because Binance probably has way more than Bitstamp. Bitstamp probably has more data. Okay. Binance is, I mean, I'm saying Binance. XRP, let's see. Yeah, it's forming the same thing, the same patterns, guys. So I'll be watching these. You know, if there is a capitulation move, this is going to get whoosh, wiped out and then probably come back into this channel. So, you know, my divergence fib is going to be outside of this channel, most likely. Yeah, 22 cents. Guys, if XRP gets at 22 cents, if you live in America, you need to contact AB and get him to buy some for you. Because send him money or something, because that's what I'm going to have to be doing. And if XRP gets to 22 cents, you got to strike at that, right? You got to take a strike at that. Hadn't been that low in a while. When it was that low, there was just high demand. High demand, high demand, high demand. So fuck it, it's a good price. Don't even got to look into it too much. Just believe me, trust me. 4 hour, you know, hey, it's bearish right now though. So hold up. This is probably going to be a good play right here. So you could maybe watch for this X marks the spot that I'm about to draw right there. And it would be better if I just drew it with normal lines, because this is going to be an X marks the spot type of play right here and right here, boy. Bam. Bam. So if that gets there, which it most likely looks like it's gonna, that's a correction area. Let's go take it down there. That's an easy one right there, guys. Let's play this one. That is a beautiful play. And I think the other cryptos look very similar on the lower time frames. Oh, wow. Bitcoin is already in that. So we got to watch that. If Bitcoin breaks up, it might do something like this. Got to be careful. I would rather it start to show bearishness and then give an opportunity on XRP for that. Good. This does look a little corrective. It's not by any means. Could this just take off? Yeah, I don't want that to happen. The 4 hour on XR or on ETH, I mean, yeah. Look, let's be honest. It is kind of bullish. Looking, it didn't break this low, right? It didn't break this low, but to me, this just has a classic Wyckoff range that's about to happen on it. If I could, PS is what we need to see first in the SC. PS, SC, okay? Then we need an ABC. Son of a gun. Oh, yes, SC. Then we need an ABC. Okay, boom. Now we make another low to the downside. That never made that low to the downside. Okay, into the Wyckoff, into the phase B. So we were looking for this move right here, right? In the phase B, it says this is the function of building a cause for a new uptrend. All right. Large preferential interests are accumulating relatively low price. Okay. Anticipating the next move. It says right here, the process of accumulation may take a long time, sometimes a year or more. Okay. And let's say right here, there's usually multiple. This is these STs during phase B. That means tests to the low, okay, as well as tests to the upper boundary of the trading range. So what that means is this isn't always going to be just like this. It says there can be multiple tests up here and there can be multiple tests down here. What this is doing, in my opinion, is it's just giving a multiple test up here, okay? And before it comes back down here. That's just what I see. Now, if this breaks out of here with a high volume, higher volume than we've been seeing, that's gonna change everything. And I might have to flip my bias. It just depends on how the volume looks, because I'll tell you right now, the momentum has been flat up here. Every time price gets into into that level up here, the momentum hasn't really done shit. At this moment, it gave this bearish divergence up here. And, oh, that was way back there. I was looking at this right here, okay? Just this little move right here. When it made this trading range, it created this bearish divergence. So I'm kind of curious if it comes back up here, if it's going to have divergence. And if it does, that's going to be a really good indication that that high shouldn't get broken. And we should come back down into the bottom of this range, or even lower into the 700 area, okay? There's this trend line that I'm sure a lot of people have drawn on their chart. And if this breaks, I'm not a big trend line trader, but if this breaks, guys, we're coming into these prices. There's not a doubt in my mind that this is coming lower if that breaks, right? I want to look at the see if everything's red as shit. Damn, it is, okay? Real quick, just to get a glimpse at some of these other majors in this market. This just is screaming to me that these lows are getting taken out. The longer this sits down here like this, the more I believe that there's going to be a wipeout, like a 50% in 25% in one day wipeout. Yeah, 30% in one day type wipeout in these type of coins. Even lower, to be honest. Once it breaks that low, I think 48% type move. Solana, very similar patterns, guys. They all are forming some form of Wyckoff accumulations, and they don't have to make this move down. I am just waiting to put a lot of more money in if they do. Wow, that's not a good look for Tron. Matic, similar. Link, very similar to everything. Now this one, if it gets any lower, I might just have to buy it. Mana, nothing looks like it's gonna pop next week, guys. So I need to also check some of these other ones. Oh, Engine. All right, I think next week or the week after, we can expect to put some more money into the market. That's how I'm playing it. Bitcoin dominance is starting to show some positive signs. And that is going to be so bad for the altcoins. Letting you know, if you are an altcoin person, you could look at it like it broke out right here and it's holding above it. You could look at it like it was a perfect accumulation pattern, 2, 3, boom. And now we're getting ready. Last point of support right here. It looks rather bullish to me. Let's go to the 4-hour, and you can clearly see there was a breakout after somewhat of a cumulative on the 4 hour. So we got the breakout, we're getting the build up. I think we're going to move out right here. I think we're going to move out. Okay. That is going to be so freaking bad for the altcoin market if that is the case. Okay. And I think it is the case. And, you know, it might not make, it might send Bitcoin up. Honestly, there might be a little rally in Bitcoin, but ultimately, once Bitcoin, if Bitcoin comes into this right here this week, probably gonna see some rejection. I need to see the tether dominance because I've been expecting what I expect long term on this, and it is looking prime. Man, okay, obviously you can tell, no one needs to tell anyone that the tether dominance is going up, and you got to think in this crazy time, people are wanting to go into stable coins. So that's not dumb. And it's not dumb to think that this is going to continue up because more people are going to get scared and get out of whatever they're in and go into stable coin. And if you're, it's not like if you're smart, but that would have been the smartest thing to do back here. Literally, when we saw Tether do this and break out and correct right here, November 2001 or 2021 is when we literally should have said, okay, pull your money out of Bitcoin, because look at that. Look what would have happened in November 2021. You'd have had right here at 67 the top. So a little upset that we didn't hit that on the head, because it is something that it was just really obvious to see at the time, but it's all good. Now I expect this is getting, it's cooling off. You can see the waves are starting to get smaller. Okay, this one's a little smaller than that one. This one's smaller than that one. So we'll probably will see another one, but it'll probably be smaller than this one, or equal to it. Either way, the momentum is what I'm looking at. Okay, the momentum is increasing on every fucking wave. It hasn't not increased. Every wave since 2021, it's increased. So there is the opposite of divergence when you're looking at the momentum. It's called convergence. Okay, but when you go into the daily, you're starting to see divergence. Okay, the momentum is shifting to the upside while price was double bottoming. And this is a perfect impulse ABC. It's a flat, it's called a flat correction. And for the Elliott wave theorists, it looks like bullish candle at the end of the day coming up. We'll see how this closes, but man, it is looking primed up. Now it might have one more wave down. It you know, it hasn't hit the fib that I wanted it to hit yet. I'm going to fib it from the daily, from here to here. Oop, that's not where I wanted it exactly. Oh, it did hit the fib. I forgot we're in logarithmic. So it has hit the 61.8. It can move up at any point, right? If we're looking at the EMA, we're below it. Once it gets above it, that's big bullish signs. If we're talking Bollinger Bands, we're extended definitely. But when we get onto the 4 hour, we're in a very important Bollinger Band level. Okay, this one right here is the 252 Bollinger Band, which is how many trading days there are in the year, which you can see how strong this is held in the past. I mean, every time it's hit it, there's a reaction pretty much. It wasn't right there or there, but I mean, it's a really strong Bollinger Band level, and we're showing some interesting spots. Now, I don't think there's volume profile on this. Oh, am I wrong? Wow, okay. There was volume profile on this the whole time. This is a level that if it does come down into, I will be screaming Bitcoin is about to drop. I don't care what Bitcoin does. If the Tether market cap gets into this level, it's most likely we're going to see a top in Bitcoin. All right. Because this is still a corrective like A, B, C. In fact, let me measure this to see how long this really was. That would bring it right into that. So that would be perfect. If it does make that move down, what it's going to do is it's going to send Bitcoin up. Okay. If this comes down all the way to 6%, what price was Bitcoin at last time it was at 6%? June 10th. Okay. So June 10th on Bitcoin is up here, I think. June 10th is prices. So that would send Bitcoin up into that 28K area. We'll see how that, if that is really what's going to start popping off here, if we're really going to see this build up like this into that. I am not sure. I have no idea what's going to happen. It's possible. It's not like it's not possible. This has a little bit of a bull flag look to it. But I will just more or less be looking at these important levels. Number one, if it does break this structure right here that it's kind of formed, I would like to see it, continue this, maybe break out of that to the upside, then Bitcoin's gonna die. Number two, if it comes down any lower into these levels, Bitcoin will most likely, especially if it gets all the way down to 6%, Bitcoin will most likely get up to 28, 30K. And then I will expect a drop, a fucking drop, no matter what. That's what I'm playing. This will be interesting if the dominance, Tether dominance just gets into these other fibs and then starts to react. That could just send Bitcoin up a little bit to make it kind of fake out up here possibly, and then drop. Okay, so what I'm seeing with this is nowhere near, not like it's nowhere near, but it's pretty far away from the high that was set in at July 7th. And then the low right here, July 7th low. I'll have to be watching how those meet each other, because right now, if Bitcoin gets here with the dominance still, with the Tether dominance kind of below here still, there's a possibility still that this could hold and roll up, and that Bitcoin would kind of hold and roll down, right? So especially if there's bullish divergence on this, if this creates bullish divergence and the Tether dominance holds below here, that's just lining up perfectly, right? Total market cap is not at $1 trillion at all yet, not even a full trillion anymore. That's wild. But to me, it does have same accumulation pattern, right? It could make one more drop, and that would be hopefully and we could go sideways for a minute, pop out and go. It's just too early to tell. If this does at this point this week make this move up, we got to watch the volume divergence and momentum divergence to see if that is fake or not. But other than that, I think that's it. There's a good amount of setups. We'll see how things go. I'm gonna try to go live every day this week, so I'm gonna continue to follow up on everything I've said and everything that I've analyzed. All right, y'all have a good one. Appreciate y'all for coming on. Take care.